All right, folks, good morning. It is Friday. It is June 13th, Friday the 13th. Okay, it's weird that today's Friday the 13th, considering yesterday, as you may have noticed, we did not have an episode in your feed. So, Jamie, you always tell us every weekday. Well, StreamYard had other ideas, much like the StreamYard took the day off yesterday. And so that means that today we have a trio coming at you. And so I am joined today by both Brittany Carper and Richard Cohen. So thank you to both of you for your flexibility, and excited to kind of dig in on, well, Wednesday's games, since Thursday we had a casual off night, and then getting into some of the Commissioner's Cup games that we have coming up this weekend. So let's just get right into it, guys, because I have a whole bunch of thoughts that we probably won't even have time to get into all of them, but I want to make sure that we kind of start off with the Wings on Wednesday. And by the Wings, I mostly mean Paige Bueckers. Back with a vengeance, I think is appropriate to say. Came out and had a major breakout game, which it's not like this is exactly shocking. We've all seen what she's capable of in college, but you are out for concussion protocol, and then you are sick, and now you pop out with a casual, 35 points. Unfortunately, still in a loss, but, that's a step forward for at least Paige personally. So you guys, I'm not going to sit here and monologue when we have two great voices to get to. So what were sort of your guys' thoughts about that Wings Mercury game and seeing Paige come out and able to really get rolling? Brittany, if you want to start.
I thought it was definitely the most comfortable she's looked in a game. Like, you can tell she's really settled in. I think her game is so patient, so efficient. And you saw that she was 13 and 19 from the floor. But you could just see her really settling in, I think, and feeling like, okay, I'm ready to really kind of stake my claim to this team, the league. I think she goes kind of under the radar. And you've heard about a lot of the other rookies, but missing the game she did, you heard the more talk about Kiki and Citron and, those rookies. But she's drafted number one for a reason. And she's, reminding people why she was the number one player in the draft and why you can build a franchise around her. And that's what I took away from that game. It was just, that's who she is. She's one of the most efficient players we've seen come from the college game. And I thought that really translated to the other night.
Yeah, I mean, she's so smooth. She makes everything look really easy and really relaxed without needing to force anything, which is something Dallas needs because they often do force a lot of things. And yeah, I think we've been a little bit spoiled by how well Caitlin Clark did as a rookie, because it's really hard to make an immediate impact as a guard in this league. And we've seen a lot of players, even the ones who are now considered all-stars or all world level players, took a year or two at least to step up to this level. And yeah, the fact that Bueckers has come in and looked so good so quickly is testament to how good she is. And yeah, now she just needs some help.
Right.
Yeah, that's and the really crazy thing is when you watch that game, like, it took her 3.5 minutes to attempt a shot. And then she gets one, it goes down, and all of a sudden she rattles off 12 points in 3 minutes. Like, she didn't miss a shot until I think the second quarter, and so it was one of those things where we're seeing some of the same stuff we did at UConn, where Gino talked about, man, I'm just trying to get her to shoot more. We need her to score more. Like, she's a great teammate. She's a great distributor. But when we're having, she dealt with so many depth issues and injury issues herself, as well as with her teammates at UConn. And so she started getting a lot more comfortable stepping into that like primary offensive player role. And then here it's like, oh, I'm going into the WNBA and I'm going to have more support around me. And then you have, first of all, Tierra McCowan gone overseas now, will return, but you have Ty Harris, who is out for the season with injury. Then you have Rickea Jackson, who just can't get a shot to fall to save her life. She has really good looks that just are not falling. And so now it's kind of back to the status quo that's Paige has unfortunately been kind of used to, where, all right, well, I guess it's on me. And so she certainly she certainly stepped up to the plate there. And I just hope that that means that she's able to be a good focus there and build that confidence. But they've got to get the rest of the people on the same page. I mean, they're clearly trying to run that sort of read and react offense, and maybe two people at a time are reading and or reacting. Like, there's way too many people just standing on the perimeter and staring at whoever has the ball. A lot of the time it's Paige, and you can see her, you can see Rickea, like every time they're coming up the court, they're pointing at someone, they're directing them somewhere. Like, they are trying so hard to get things moving. And Rickea needs to be able to get shots to fall, but it's not like she's taking bad shots. Like, it's just they are not falling. And I feel like at some point they have to, because she's too good of a shooter for them not to fall. But if the rest of the team would at least be participating on offense, there would be a lot more opportunity there. But man, it's tough just to watch the stagnation at times, especially when Paige starts going off and everyone then is just like, oh, well, great. This is a reason why I can just kind of stand here and watch. It's just, gosh, I just want to see some movement.
Yeah, I don't know, Richard, if you want to touch next, but I think too, just sometimes I feel like watching them, their front court, the kind of inability of them to really stretch the floor consistently hurts what they're trying to do offensively. And so that's what I think sometimes you see them become really stagnant, because they're not great on the perimeter. And then it causes the guards to kind of not have the ability to move freely and find the looks that they're really trying to find on that offensive end.
And I mean, to cover the other half, honestly, they've got bigger problems on defense than they do on offense.
Yeah.
I mean, the main note I wrote down from the game against Phoenix was that one team looked like a team and one team looked like a bunch of people wearing the same uniform. Dallas don't look like a unit yet. There's Paige taking shots, there's Rickea taking shots, and yeah, there's some people wandering about. The communication on defense especially is terrible, and the help and rotations on the defensive end are poor. Yeah, they've still got a lot of the same problems that they've had in past years, despite how much turnover they had in the offseason when they changed most of the roster and the whole front office and coaching staff as well. And not a lot has changed. I mean, my theory in the offseason was they should have traded Rickea, but that's gone now. You got to move on, because I doubt that's happening in season. So yeah, they've got to work on what they've got and try and build more of a team unit, which just isn't really there at the moment.
Yeah, it's certainly been a little bit tough there. And I want to make sure we hit on the other half of this equation in this game too, because as the team account themselves pointed out in the montage of highlights from Wednesday night's games, the victor in this game was not included once, as they called out the WNBA for, and that's the Phoenix Mercury. You have Satu Sabli with another really, really solid game. 20 points for Satu. You got Alyssa Thomas back. You got Natasha Mack into the game for the first time this season. And you're just continuing to see this really, really tremendous development from a bunch of their other newcomers. You know, you've got Monika Komakani, Kit Loxa, Lexi Held. They really are coming together in a big way. And I also wonder if Ka might be working her way back in, as they've had some, there's been some reporting of her doing some on-court work, and then they are including her in their all-star push. The Mercury are posting there, send our players to the all-star game, and it's AT, it's Satu, and it's Kalia Copper, who has yet to record a minute this year. But I guess her reputation precedes her as far as that goes, I'll say. But I don't know. I still don't know that I totally buy into Phoenix, to be completely honest, because I think that there's times where they just look a little bit lost as well. But they definitely have the pieces to be so competitive, and the young players, not all super young. I mean, more newcomers. So they've got some of the more experienced rookies coming in as well. They are really continuing to mesh well, and so I did want to make sure that we gave them their shine, so that as much as I would love to be called out by the Phoenix Mercury because it would mean they were paying attention, like I figure that I will try to stay on the right side of that one, but. I've been really impressed with the way that they have different people consistently stepping up. Monica Komakani had a couple of really big shots down the stretch against Dallas. I'm really, really excited to see Natasha Mack start working back into form because she's kind of what they've been missing as far as like another true post presence, but one with a little bit more versatility than Kalani, who was out in this game as well. So I definitely, I still don't know exactly what to make of Phoenix, but there's times where they're really fun to watch.
Absolutely. Richard said it best. Like, they just look like a team. They move the ball so well. They give open shots. I think everybody's really bought into their role within that team. It'll be interesting once Copper comes back, and with some of those rookies, are they going to regress? We don't know. But if you're getting her back, you're adding a perennial all-star. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's going to offset whatever regression those players have as well. So I think, to me, what I enjoy about them is they understand what they're trying to do on the court, both ends really. And when you have players like Thomas and Sabali to build around, and then you get Copper back, they certainly can be a team that can make a lot of noise when you have those three as kind of your bigs.
Yeah, I've been incredibly impressed by Phoenix, both what Tibbetts has done with this unit, managing to get so many new players playing well, and what their front office did, bringing this group together. That there are so many players on this roster who are the type of player who normally get invited to a training camp and are cut the
Mm-hmm.
final week, and they found the right players. They brought them in. Lexi Held has been a revelation. I was not expecting this. I mean, we have colleagues who were very high on McCarney before she came in, so I was looking forward to what she could do, because I've seen a little of her in France, but not much, and she's been good as well. I mean, even Kat Westbeld, who
Starting
and producing and doing exactly what they need her to do. Yeah, she play defense, stand in the corner, hit threes when you're wide open. They're not asking her to do anything beyond her skill set, and she's doing exactly what they need. And yeah, this has been incredibly impressive from Phoenix. They're maybe not quite as good as the 7-4 record suggests they are, but like you said, they're gonna add Copper, and then maybe they will be. And yeah, I'm not sure they're a contender yet, but they've been incredibly impressive as a good team.
Yeah, and Jamie, I feel like it's a broken record. What we've said several times is just the fit and the vision of the front
Mm-hmm.
office. And you can see that starting to separate across the league when the front office has the vision and can add the pieces. And they obviously sometimes don't pan out, but when they do, you look pretty smart there.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially you're pulling players from kind of all over the place. Certainly, they've gone about as international as anyone outside of the Valkyries, and then you also have some domestic products who have been playing primarily internationally with Westbeld withheld. So definitely been really interesting. Just a different approach to roster building, which we've talked, I feel like, a lot about how there's so many teams that have done things in a really different way this year, whether that be the hires they make for coaching staff, whether that be the players they're bringing in or the roster they're putting together. It's been really impressive, definitely, to see that come together in Phoenix. And so I do want to talk about, you want to talk about some of the fit, some of the depth. There's a team that has lost a little bit of that, and in doing so, ended up also losing their first game of the season. So, of course, I'm talking about the Minnesota Lynx. And to me, dropping this game to the Storm, it, for one, says how great of a position the Storm are in when they really get rolling and then when they're clicking, how, man, you get some offensive production from Ezi Magbagor. I'll give the disclaimer real quick. My mom's walking in the door. I'm in an Airbnb in Florida. Hi, Mom. She doesn't have any input yet. I'll let you guys know if she has takes on the Lynx here, but but it's it's been really fun to watch Seattle come together, and I'll get to them because they deserve to be discussed. But for Minnesota, this felt like, man, this is a really, really rough first game without Jess Shepard. And she's been good this year for the Lynx, but I think her being gone really highlighted how crucial she's been because of that lack of interior depth. Where you have Alana Smith, she had to play over 37 minutes. Nafisa had to play over 37 minutes. And then I like these players. I think they have potential in the league, but for what the Lynx need, Diamond Miller did not see the floor. Alyssa Peely played just under 5 minutes. They just don't have the size for what they need on the interior. The Lynx side, Maria Klundakova, maybe when she gets a little bit more integrated, they'll be able to use her. But this is kind of back to my biggest concern from the offseason with the Lynx, which was that I so desperately wanted them to add another big, and they didn't. And I'm just worried that things could spiral a little bit here during Eurobasket time. And, you know, if you have foul trouble, if you have, God forbid, an injury to either Fee or Alana, you're gonna be in a world of hurt because Jess was kind of your saving grace on the interior.
Yeah, I thought that was the biggest thing down the stretch. Both of their, Smith and Collier looked tired. And against a front line like Seattle has, that's a hard game to play that many minutes and still be productive when it matters down the stretch. And so, yeah, like you said, Shepard was a big piece for them. And that little window when she's gone, maybe it gives an opportunity for those other players to find themselves and be able to contribute when she returns as well. But that to me was the biggest thing missing, is just the minute load those two had to play, and then not really being as productive down the stretch.
I think a big part of this is on Cheryl Reeve, in that we don't necessarily know whether they've got the players to offer the depth because she's not giving them a chance to play. There are 6 players that she trusts that currently in Minnesota. It's basically the starting 5 and Heidemann, and if anyone else plays, it seems grudging that she even puts them on the floor. So at some point, you've got to trust Peely to play more than 3 minutes in a row, or you've got to trust Kliendakova if you don't think Peely's good enough. And yeah, give the players more rest from that starting 5 so that they've got something left at the end. She needs to pepper in that bench more, or if they're not good enough, then move on from some of them and try and find somebody on the free agent market or make trades. I have definitely begun to feel that Diamond Miller's time in Minnesota is essentially over. But we've all seen how much sort of athletic talent she's got. I can certainly see somebody else in the league wanting to give her a second chance, which means maybe you still can get some value back and get someone in who you think can help. But like even Carly Samuelson is now essentially out of the rotation. Cheryl Reeve in games like that needs to go a little bit further down the bench and help her team out, help them get more rest.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great point. I think, especially, I mean, I like Diamond as a player. I think she has places that she can fit in this league. I just don't see a scenario in which that's Minnesota. Like, no disrespect, but her style of play does not fit what Minnesota does. And so I was frankly pretty shocked to see her back again this year, to see them pick up her option. I mean, you do that because you don't really know what you have next year. Maybe that helps with potential trade options, but I'm totally with you, Richard. At this point, like there has to be some moves made. You need more of that interior depth. You need just flat out more options. Even if you're going, quote unquote small ball, you need additional people. You need 2, 3, 4 people you can trust off the bench, and you have, maybe a little bit of a project in Anastasia Olarikosu. Well, you don't have the luxury to have a project unless you have the rest of your roster really shored up. And right now, with the fact that, as you said, Carly Samuelson's kind of fallen out of the rotation with some of the struggles she's had primarily defensively. Alyssa Peely just is undersized from the position that she's used to playing. And so unless you find the exact right slot to put her into, it's going to be a tough ride for her. And then you have, Diamond Miller not seeing the floor. That's you just can't have that on your bench. And it's not really a good use of anyone's time to have one of your high picks sitting on the bench and not really playing. Like there has to be somewhere that has some kind of interest. Like, shoot, right now the Valkyries are down 1 million people. Like, hey, any interest? Hey, you want to send Chechi back when she comes back? But I don't. I think that would be kind of a hard sell. But regardless, I definitely am with you. Just I would like to see something done there, because I definitely worry about what's to come for Minnesota if they don't figure out how to get some more people in this rotation before Jess comes back. But part of it too is that Seattle figuring some stuff out again. They're not flawless, but Erica Wheeler, off to the best start in her career, is absolutely killing it, loves it there, obviously, has said that. Dom Malonga, people, she needs to get more time. Why are you not playing her? Well, she's getting acclimated, and look how it pays off when you do take the time to get acclimated. 4 or 5 from the floor, 8 really, really big points, just under 13 minutes of play. Like, she was consistent throughout the time she was in there. And then your stars do what your stars do. You have 5 double-figure scorers. You've shaken up the starting lineup a little bit with Erica Wheeler in there. Ezzy's getting going offensively, 6 for 8 from the floor for 13 points. Like, if I'm the Storm, especially considering you're not losing players to Eurobasket, like, I'm feeling really, really good about the rhythm we're beginning to find.
They've been a team that I think, what they did the other night is kind of what you can see their potential being. If Wheeler's playing at that level, then that's the kind of team they can put on the floor every night, especially if you're getting that production. And Malonga's coming along, like you said. She could play more, but you also want her to make sure she's taking advantage of the minutes she's getting, putting her in situations where she's getting the confidence to make a bigger impact down the line and as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll fit into my standard role as the wet blanket and say that I think we kind of saw what can happen when everything clicks for Seattle. Mm-hmm. And I mean, long term, I still have more confidence in Minnesota than I do in the Storm. But yeah, I mean, we saw what can happen when Erica Wheeler's on, and that gives them an extra option. And when Malonga comes in, and she's just scary. What you can see, I mean, I felt like that was sort of the first time where we've really seen where the Wembanyama comparisons kind of jump out at you, where whatever she's doing, the length impacts everything. And then she has great touch as well. So if you can get her the ball anywhere near the rim, she's going to score a lot of the time because she's got the touch on the ball and she can finish. She has a scary amount of potential.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree. Like, I don't think that Seattle all of a sudden is going on an undefeated tear. I think they're capable of consistently being in games. As you said, like, long term, I do have a lot of confidence in Minnesota, but right now it's definitely a good time for Seattle to have caught them. And also it does have implications on the Commissioner's Cup race, since that means that Minnesota and Seattle are both at the top 3-1, and Seattle now has the head-to-head tiebreaker. And so, Minnesota is going to need to potentially take care of business against Seattle in the second time they meet for the Commissioner's Cup, as well as maybe get a little bit of help.
You only play each team once.
Oh, you do. Right, yeah. You do only play them once. You're right. So they're going to need some help.
Yeah, or a 3-way tie. Yeah.
Yeah, because Minnesota has the point differential tiebreaker currently, which obviously will change in the additional games coming up. But yeah, you're totally right. It's a single round robin, so it's definitely a little bit of a tough break for Minnesota there. They're gonna have opportunities, but for Seattle, definitely gives them a big opportunity. And their losses to the Aces, who I don't think are probably going to be up there in a multi-way tiebreaker, at least the way things are looking right now.
If everyone else in the West already has at least 2 losses apart from Seattle and Minnesota, so if Seattle win out, then I presume they finish top because they would win the tiebreaker against Minnesota. So all they got to do is beat Golden State and LA, which certainly very, very possible. Yeah, that one win over Minnesota may have changed that entire competition on the West side.
Yeah, it'll certainly be really interesting. And you bring up another team from Wednesday that certainly needs to be mentioned, which is LA and Rickea Jackson. Wow. She definitely got off to a strong start when you're able to get just a wide open transition three, because the Aces are worried about Kelsey Plum driving to the rim and not getting anyone to a trailing Rickea Jackson, which is a choice, certainly. But she just kept it rolling the entire game. Career high 30 points, shot nearly 65% from the floor, was 4 of 8 from three, did a little bit of everything and showed everyone, hey, yeah, I'm also back. Like, we had a couple of really big breakout games this season for Paige Bueckers and Rickea Jackson in the same night, where both of them had been out. And now you've got Rickea working her way back in. Wasn't her first game back, but was definitely the biggest since she's been back. And man, I mean, again, we keep talking about how players raise the potential of teams. Oh my gosh, LA, when you have Kelsey Plum, you have Dearica Hamby, we've seen what they're able to do. Azare Stevens has raised her game in a huge way this season. And then if you have Rickea coming out with like a casual 30, that's going to be a pretty solid team. And the Aces have a lot of things to figure out. There's not a different way to say that, but the Sparks certainly are showing, okay, we're not just rolling over. They had some sort of speed bumps to start the year. They're going to have some speed bumps over the course of the season. But again, you have this core of people that you have the ability to be competitive in most games when you have these players. If they're playing to their potential, if you have a good game plan, they're not going to be competitive in every game. They're not going to win every game, but they definitely have a lot more going for them. They're figuring out a lot more as the season wears on.
Yeah, Jackson just makes a huge difference for them. I think her versatility. I mean, you have a 6'2" wing that can shoot the three, get to the rim. So for her coming back into their lineup, I think really bolsters them, and like you said, will make them competitive in most games, especially if they shoot the ball the way they did the other night. Now the Aces aren't great defensively this year. I think their biggest thing too is just, and it was mentioned in the broadcast, their transition defense. And a lot of it is because they're not making shots. I think they shot 37.5% the other night. And when you're constantly spending time in transition defense and not communicating, not getting out to shooters, that you're going to create that 20-point hole like they did. And then now you're digging and clawing your way back. And so I think you saw kind of two sides of the coin the other night, what LA can be when they're making shots and Jackson's playing really well. And then conversely, what the Aces have kind of shown over this little stretch is when they're not making shots, they're just not going to be very successful because they're not grinding you out on the other, getting back and making you work to make shots.
Yeah, I thought it was scary how bad Vegas looked defensively at times. This is a team with so much talent and that we've gotten used to being so good, but there are big gaps on the defensive end and they don't look like a team playing with hunger. They look like a team that's gotten too comfortable where they are and think they can win a lot of games just by showing up. And the league's too good for that. And yeah, they're getting turned over. They've lost like 3 games incredibly convincingly now, where you sort of think, okay, that's a wake up call. They're going to come out next week and show what that did, and they'll watch that game on tape and they'll come out energized because they'll think we can't come out like that. We can't be that bad. It's not supposed to happen 3 times. You're not supposed to need 3 wake up calls. That's what I do with my alarm. You're not supposed to do that when you're a professional basketball player. So yeah, Vegas need something, some kind of turnaround, because this has really not been good, and it's been not good repeatedly. And I mean, the one it's always nice when stats back up what you see with your eyes. And one thing I went and checked was their assist percentage, because they don't move the ball. They're not moving the ball on offense. They have on 2-point baskets an assist percentage of 47%, which is incredibly low. The top in the league is over 70. Average is 60. And yeah, they're relying on sort of Asia Wilson or Jackie Young or Chelsea Gray occasionally to just break people down individually. And the ball's not moving. They're not shaking other defenses around. And yeah, it's been poor.
And I definitely am concerned about what may be to come, because as we talk today, Friday, tonight there's going to be a matchup between the Aces and the Wings. And it's been tough to watch the Aces at times. A lot of time it's been tough to watch the Wings. We've said very similar things about both teams today, in the lack of movement, in the stagnation, in the issues they have in fighting anything outside of their kind of central player. And now for the Aces, you may be without that player tonight. For Asia Wilson, who last I saw was doubtful for the matchup against Dallas. And so all of a sudden you have this Aces team that has been a juggernaut for years now, is kind of floundering, even with Asia in the lineup. Very likely maybe without her tonight, going up against a Dallas team that has looked inconsistent at best, but has Paige Bueckers coming back, has a team that I think has something to prove in a big way, and probably sees a crazy opportunity against the Aces, knowing especially how their issues have been defensive. I'm just sitting here thinking, man, if Rickea was going to have a game to be able to get some shots to fall, to find some good opportunities, if the Wings wanted to have their big quote unquote get right game, what an opportunity this would be. And to that point, it's in Vegas. Dallas is only a 6-point underdog. Like that's a pretty narrow margin for what you would kind of anticipate if you hadn't been watching the games recently, if you were just going based off of kind of the way that we came into the season thinking maybe. And I don't know, it's I'll certainly watch, but I might have to take a couple breaks from it, because I'm a little bit worried about how some of this might look. You might get some really good sequences, and then you might get some head scratchers in there with this one.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a game for the Aces, certainly, where Jewel Lloyd maybe kind of tries to get back to what she was and is capable of, because if she doesn't show up tonight, that could be really ugly. Just the Aces don't have the front court scoring, and now you're talking about Asia being out of the lineup, and that's just going to be hard to watch for them. I'm not sure where they're going to really get production if it isn't from Lloyd really increasing. I mean, she's at 9 a game this year, and so she's got to find a way to contribute more to that lineup. And then, like you said, it's an opportunity for the Wings. Yeah, I think they see, okay, we can go make a name for ourselves. They certainly didn't play great the other night, but if you're getting that level from Paige and Rickea finds herself, then yeah, they're going to be in that game, and I think maybe have a chance to kind of, sneak out a W there.
Yeah, certainly it's a good chance for both teams. Like you say, Jewel Lloyd has not fit in yet at all with the Aces. I said it jokingly on social media, but Kelsey Plum has scored more points in Las Vegas this season than Jewel Lloyd has, which is terrifying if you're an Aces fan. That Lloyd is not hitting shots, and it's disappointing sort of how little she seems to be integrated into the offense as well. Just not just that she's missing, but that she doesn't seem to be involved as much as you would want. And I mean, Hammond has a similar issue sometimes as Reeves does in Minnesota, in that she's got this tiny core of players that she's willing to trust, and then you go further down the bench and those players barely ever get on the court. And somebody's got to come on. I mean, if Asia Wilson's out, then what is the next option? It's hard to even know, because Becky doesn't use other bigs outside of Keir Stokes playing defense and not scoring occasionally. So does Kitley come in and play 35 minutes out of nowhere? Do they play an incredibly small lineup where like Chelsea Gray's your backup center? It starts to get ridiculous if Asia Wilson's out entirely, and we have not seen what they're like without her because she has been so healthy for pretty much their entire run since this became an elite team.
Yeah, and I think, Richard, you touched on it with both of those coaches not being really willing to trust more of the bench, but we're seeing in other franchises, there's capable players on multiple WNBA teams that can make a difference if given the opportunity. And so I think hopefully going forward, maybe coaches that have been in the league longer are going to be more willing to put those players out there, see what they can do, because in small samples, like you said, Peely only getting 3 minutes at a time or whoever it might be, that's such a short sample size for really to evaluate what they're doing, and that I think you're seeing perfect example like the Mercury, like we said, those, there's fits for players and maybe they are capable of more than what they're given the opportunity currently.
And it's tough to settle in as a player because you're scared you're going to get pulled the first time you make any kind of mistake. So yeah, on some level, it's on the coaches to give them more of a chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this a lot, and then I know I talked about it briefly with Cindy on Monday, like talking about, well, we could definitely use more roster spots. Well, for the ones who aren't using the roster spots that they do have, that's certainly some missed opportunity there, I think. So, okay, guys, we have gotten into a lot of what we had on Wednesday. We've gotten a little bit into what's to come on Friday into the weekend. Obviously, we're playing a little bit of catch up today with sort of 2 days worth of discussion. But I wanted to give you guys a chance. Is there any other matchup you're looking at for this coming weekend? There's a lot of really good ones. Obviously, we've got the Sparks and Lynx. We have the Liberty and Fever, Seattle at Golden State, Chicago at Connecticut, the Dream at the Mystics, which is probably my pick for like my two teams that I sort of have become attached to this season that I'll be really excited to watch. And then we also have Phoenix at Vegas. Do you guys have like a particular game that you have circled as a must watch, that there's anything that you're really looking to get from these matchups that we have this weekend?
Dream Mystics was mine. I think they've split on the year, so that to me is going to be a good game. It's at Mystics. The Dream, I still am baffled by their loss to the Sun. I don't know how that happened just when you're watching games, but to me, that's the one I kind of circled. I'm really looking forward to that matchup.
I mean, I'm intrigued by the final game of the weekend, which Phoenix against the Aces, because you've got a team making the most out of what talent they've managed to find, sort of the new pieces they put together, and a team sort of trying to find how they put together all of the pieces they've had for quite some time, and along with Lloyd being added into their core. But yeah, it's sort of two teams coming from different angles, but having to sort of meet in the middle and see how they come out.
Absolutely. Well, there's not a bad choice this weekend. There will be a whole bunch of really great games, and I'm sure there will be one that we haven't even gotten into.
Chicago, Connecticut could be pretty bad.
That could be a rough one. There's a couple too that there's some that I think we could be coming back next week. Like, wow, I can't believe we didn't even get into this one. And there could be a few that we're coming back next week. Like, yeah, we are not talking about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I hope there's more of the I can't believe we didn't talk about this and fewer of the let's not talk about this. But there's got to be a little bit of an even mix. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna call it there because otherwise we could keep going forever and ever. It's always fun to get to talk with either of you, let alone both. We get a good, I think, diversity of experience and opinions, and this has been very fun. It's almost like a little bit of like revamped press break with the 3-man show. So I've been having a good time with that. So thank you so much for joining me today, guys. You can find both Brittany and Richard on social media. Brittany is going to be everywhere at Brittany Carper. Richard's going to be at Richard Cohen 1 on X, and just Richard Cohen on Blue Sky.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. And then I am J Steyes, JSTEYZ, everywhere. Make sure that you are subscribed, following Her Hoop Stats on all social media platforms. We will be back next week, barring any StreamYard issues. We are scheduled for another 5 episodes next week. We'll be back there, and make sure that you are following along with all of our newsletters, Tulin's Treasures. Richard's got all sorts of good analysis coming out all the time. He makes sure that I know what I'm talking about generally with the minutia. I read that and I say, okay, all right, I feel like I have some sort of idea of what's happening with CBA stuff, contract stuff, because otherwise it flies a little bit over my head. But this has been the Her Hoop Stats podcast. We will talk to you guys next week. Thank you.